Hey guys, Jeff here with Passive Income Unlocked, and today I want to talk about whether or not a niche site can actually be passive. So I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek into an article that I just wrote. So it's titled, How Passive Can Niche Sites Be? It's not published yet, but it'll probably be live in the near future. So the first thing, what does passive really mean, right? So when people hear the term passive income, they probably picture, sitting on the beach, just getting money funneling into their bank account every month or whatever. In reality, though, that's not really how passive income works. There's actually not very many passive income streams that work that way anyways. You have dividend stocks where you might get your dividend payouts once every quarter or whatever, but that's about it. For me, though, I consider something where after I get through that initial investment period and I get to the maintenance phase, if it requires very little effort on my part to get a return, I consider that to be passive income. So my goal with this video and this site is just to show you how you can accomplish that with a niche site. So I was just talking about that initial investment period. So you do have that with niche websites as well. And when I say investment period, I'm not necessarily talking about money. It can be time, it can be effort, it could be money, whatever. So this is just a list that I put together, things that you have to do when you start a new site. I put this together in 1 or 2 minutes. I'm sure I missed a ton of them. If you go to build a site, your list is probably going to be 2 or 3 or 4 times longer. Just keep that in mind. The things that you would have to do initially. Choose a niche. Choose a buy domain name. Buy hosting. Create accounts for your email, social media accounts if you have them. Create a website, which comes with a huge list on its own. So installing plugins, choosing and installing a theme, setting up your site's menus and layouts. Creating all the general pages like the about page, contact form, terms and conditions, privacy policy, researching all the topics for your site to write about, writing the actual articles themselves, that's a big one, finding and adding images to your site, adding links to your site. So again, this is just a quick list that I came up with off the top of my head. You go build a site, you're going to see that this list is much, much larger. But most of these things are in the initial period, the investment phase that I just mentioned. But now I'm going to go over the maintenance phase, and you're going to see that a lot of these things actually drop off. So once you get to the maintenance phase, that's kind of where you're up and running. You kind of have a workflow. Your site's all set up. Now you're just really focused on producing content and publishing. So things that you would still need to do in this phase: research topics for your site, write and post the articles, find and add images to your posts, and then add internal, external links. So those are like the 4 big ones that's how I look at it anyways. Those are the 4 big ones you still have to do. The last couple, some people neglect, like you don't have to add images to your site. You don't have to put links in your articles. I recommend that you do. You're going to see a lot better growth if you do those things, but you don't necessarily have to do those things if you want to be very, very passive. But you definitely need to research topics. You need to write the posts. In addition, once you get to that maintenance phase, there are some other things that you have to do as well. So if you're in the United States, you're going to have to pay annual taxes. So you have to track your revenue and expenses. And if you get above a certain threshold, you're going to have to actually pay quarterly estimated taxes as well. You have to keep your site and plugins up to date. You have to maintain your domain and hostings and all your various accounts. Manage your social media profiles if you create them, which you don't have to. Respond to comments and emails if you decide to. You don't have to put a comment form on your site. You don't have to put your email address, your contact info on your site. But if you decide to do those things, then you have to manage them, and I recommend that you do because, again, those can help fuel your growth as well, right? So those are kind of the things in the maintenance phase. But what can you do to make your site more passive? And this is a really easy one, and the key is outsourcing, right? If you can outsource some of this work, it becomes more and more passive. So out of the list that I just told you about in the maintenance phase, there's really only 4 things that are time-consuming. And that was that initial list I gave you. That's the researching topics, writing posts and articles, finding and adding images, and then adding internal and external links. Those are the 4 things that you still have to do once you're in the maintenance phase that are fairly time consuming. Again, you don't necessarily have to add images or links if you don't want to, but let's just assume that you're going to do all 4 of those things. So once you go down the outsourcing phase, or outsourcing road, what you want to outsource first would be your articles. That's going to be the one that takes the most time, and it's probably one of the easier ones to outsource anyways. So you can head over to a site like Upwork.com. I've used them. I've used them for years. I still use them. Fiverr you can do as well, but it's hit or miss there. I've never used them for content, but some people do. And there's a lot of content mills as well, where it's more like an agency where you can outsource a batch of articles to a place like Writer Access or something like that, and they'll just basically they'll give it to a bunch of different writers, and you'll get back a bunch of articles at once. So that's another option as well. So that's one of the first things you can outsource, and that's going to free up the most time for you. So for my team and I, that's literally all we outsource. We just outsource the content itself. So every time we start a new site, we always write the first batch of articles, probably about 100 articles or so, just to get that site up and running the way we want it to be up and running. We always find that our articles do better than the ones that we outsource. Doesn't matter who we use. So for that reason, we always write that initial batch to get that traction. But after that, then we start to outsource the majority of the content. Not all of it, but the majority of it. We don't outsource anything else because for us, we are a 4-person team. We can spread the tasks between us pretty easily, and it's not a whole lot of work for us. And at the same time, we actually enjoy working on our sites. We enjoy building the sites. We enjoy having some of that control. And that's one thing to keep in mind as well. As you outsource more and more things, you're losing control. So that's one thing to just always keep in the back of your head. How much control do I really want to have? So for us, like I said, we just outsource the content, and then we still do everything else, but we're a 4-person team. If you're a 1-person team and you want to make this real, or if you're just working by yourself and you want to make this really passive, you can literally outsource everything else on the list. Adding images to your post, you can definitely outsource that really easily. That's not something that takes a lot of skills. Adding internal, external links, as long as you can teach somebody how to do that, that's not too difficult to outsource. The one thing that I would question outsourcing, you can definitely do it, and there's places that will do it for you, would be finding the topics for your site. So for me, that's the bread and butter of this business. That is the most crucial aspect of building a successful niche site. That's finding the actual topics for the site. That's something that I'm going to always do myself because I feel that that's the big driver in building a successful site. But if you want to outsource it, you definitely have that option. Lots of people do it, and I'm sure lots of people do it successfully because there's definitely businesses out there that will do it for you, and they wouldn't be in business if they didn't have some kind of success. So you definitely have that as an option. So just to summarize, building a niche site can be as passive as you want it to be. It's not quite as passive as purchasing dividend stocks, but it can get pretty close if you really want to. You can outsource just about anything on the list that I just went through. So it's really up to you on how much control you want to give up to just make this as passive as possible. And another benefit of this, of course, that you don't have with many other business models is that you can scale this business so easily without really requiring any extra work on your part. You can outsource so much of this work that you can just keep scaling and scaling and scaling, grow your business to really, really high income numbers and it's not just revenue numbers like some business models. You're going to increase your revenue, your expenses will actually stay very low. So you're actually increasing the net profit along the way. So it's one of the only business models where you can do that I know of, where you can really scale so easily without putting any extra effort just by outsourcing. So it's a great business model. Guys, I just want to keep this video short, so I'm going to end it right there. If you liked it, definitely hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you want to be notified of future videos, hit that bell icon. Head over to passiveincomeunlocked.com. I got a lot more tips on growing your site over there. Thanks as always for watching the video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.